Today we will be presenting the GDP of small countries with less population. Our group number is 25 and myself Sidramappa Angadi. I'll be starting with the introduction regarding the GDP. So how to understand GDP? Gross domestic product. It can be explained as a real value of total goods produced in the country for that particular year. In other words, the total value of goods produced in the country for a specific period of time. The goods produced can be tangible and intangible. GDP is one of the simplest ways to measure economic status of any country and well-being of its citizens. There are different approaches to determine GDP, starting with GDP based on spending, that is the ability of a country to spend for the entire year, GDP based on production, and GDP based on income. So there are two kinds of GDP. The first is the general GDP, gross domestic product. The second is more, which focuses more on per capita. That means the gross domestic product value of per person for that particular year. So the formula to calculate the GDP goes like this. GDP equals to total consumption plus government expenditures plus investments plus exports minus imports. Formula to calculate the GDP per capita is the entire GDP, that is the total value of the previous formula, will be divided by the total population of that country. So I'll be going through some facts about Switzerland because Switzerland is one of the smallest country with highest GDP. Some quick facts of Switzerland. According to Forbes magazine, Switzerland has a population of 8.2 million. Geographically speaking, Switzerland is 136th largest country in the world, and in terms of GDP, it ranks 17th in the world with an estimation of $60,200 per capita income. EU being the main trading partner of Switzerland, 43% of total goods and services are exported to EU, and 78% of overall exports are from European Union. Source of revenue is a very important factor for any economy. So in terms of Switzerland, if you look at the source of revenue, service industry amounts to the majority of the GDP. That is 73.8% is the total estimation. And it is followed by the industry sector, which amounts to 25.5% of the entire revenue. How Switzerland managed to have a high GDP per capita income with its limited land and human resources. As mentioned earlier, Switzerland has a high skilled labor force and very low rate of unemployment. And according to an article by Huffington Post, it mentions that the reason for specific strength in Switzerland in the area of research and development lies in the high quality of education system and the crucial ability of Swiss people to keep on innovating. If you see at the global index, it ranks Switzerland as #1 country for innovating again in the year 2016. So Switzerland's education system is praiseworthy as the research industry have given birth and raised 47 Nobel Prize winners, which puts it ahead of US, UK and any Scandinavian countries. So in an interview with the Haydn ambassador, so he says that Switzerland lacks of natural resources, but the same factor forces the Switzerland to rely on brain power. Education and skill development are vital to our economic success, and this has made Switzerland highly competitive and innovative. So this is all about Switzerland. The next country, that is Singapore, will be continued by Sarika. Please. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid. Another least populated country is Singapore, with an average population of 5.5 million. Being a small country, Switzerland has grown into giant economy through the active participation in the international trade. Singapore per capita has went up from $500 to $20,000 in around 2 decades. Between 2000 to 2010, the GDP of Singapore roughly doubled from $163 billion to $304 billion. In the year 2016, the GDP of Singapore shot to $296,000 billion and the per capita rose to $88,000. Biomedical, electrical, and chemical are the main factors for the growth of the Singapore economy. Singapore stood as the seventh least corrupted country, which attracted other countries to trade, and as a result, it has grown its GDP per capita at an exponent rate of 12%. The macroeconomist policies the Singapore economy pursued have played a strong role in this development. Singapore economy is energized primarily on the escalation of economic growth through the provisions of investment conducive environment, and consequently it has accumulated heavy foreign reserves and sovereign ratings. Liberal in the insurance and banking policies has strengthened the Singapore economy, and as a result it has diversified investment in predominant industries like biomedical, electrical, and chemical industries, which in return resulted into high GDP and standard of living. Asian giant countries like China and other countries like Japan, Malaysia, South Korea, and even the Western countries like United States are the prime trade partners of Singapore. Thank you. The next part of the presentation about Malaysia is presented by Ayaz. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarika. Hi, I am Muhammad Umar, and I am going to present on Malaysia. Malaysia is the one of the big country and one of the big population country, and my presentation is comprised on the two parts. First, I present the facts about the Malaysia, and then I will represent how international trade play an important role to development in Malaysia. So Malaysia has 30 million population, and gross domestic product 2016 is $296 million, and per capita income $25,000, and its major trade partner is European Union, Latin America, Africa, and some regional alliances like ASEAN, Association of South Regional Countries. If we and its exports, major exports are chemicals and electronic equipments and palm oil and rubbers. And if we compare to Malaysia from before last 2 decades, we can see Malaysia is one of the most growing economy of the world, and its major partner of international trade is European Union, and that's 83% of total import and export with European Union, and rest of with their regional countries. So I'm going to that's the end of my presentation, and thank you for watching and have a good day. Thank you.